It is now 499 days that Hamas is still holding hostages in captivity in Gaza. 73 hostages remain in the terror dungeons, some alive, others not. Hello, everyone. I'm Captain in Reserves Maya Bentwich. Today is February 16th, 2025. This is the live daily briefing of the Israeli Citizen Spokesperson's Office. Hamas cannot continue as a military or government force. As long as it stands, peace becomes impossible. They must be eliminated. They must be eradicated. That's what the new U.S. Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, just said, alongside Israel's Prime Minister, Netanyahu. That is the same thing Israel has been saying for a long time. Israel's Prime Minister restated our war goals. Eliminate Hamas's military capability and its political rule in Gaza, bring all our hostages back home, and ensure Gaza never again poses a threat to Israel. Secretary Rubio also said, the hostages need to come home. They need to be released. That must happen. It's not optional. Israel's Prime Minister added that he and President Trump have common strategy, including when the gates of hell will be opened, as they surely will, if all our hostages are not released. Secretary Rubio's predecessor, Secretary Antony Blinken, said Hamas has been encouraged by daylight between the US and Israel. There does not appear to be daylight today. It is good to see the US and Israel aligned. It is good for Hamas to see the US and Israel aligned. It is good for Hamas's backers, Qatar, Turkey, Iran, to see the US and Israel aligned. Hamas must release our hostages and have no future role in Gaza or at all. Hamas cannot again be a neighbor to Israel's people. 369 terrorists, 369 evil monsters with blood on their hands for 3 hostages. That was this week's hostage ransom deal with Hamas. It included one of the worst groups of murderers and attempted murderers yet. We are thrilled to welcome home Sagi Dekelchen, Yair Hon, and Sasha Trufnov after 498 days in Hamas's terror dungeons. Their release, though, came at a terrible price. The price is terrible for the hundreds of those they victimized in the past. The price is terrible for those they may yet victimize in the future. 36 were serving life sentences, the most severe sentence Israel imposes. Ahmed Barghouti, aide and cousin of the terrorist Marwan Barghouti, was serving 13 life sentences. He was convicted of attacks in which at least 12 were murdered. Fatah terrorist Mansour Sharim was serving 14 life sentences and 50 years. He was convicted of multiple fatal attacks, including a Khadera banquet hall mass shooting where 6 were murdered and dozens wounded. Fatah terrorist Muhammad Naifa and Osama Ashkar were convicted of murdering 8, including 4 children, in attacks on villages and kibbutzim. There are many, many more. Hamas is still holding 73 hostages, around 37 of them believed to be alive. We will be greatly relieved when all the hostages are home. We need them to come home. We will also be less safe once the terrorists that we released are back on the streets. The whole world should say Hamas cannot again be the government of Gaza. Hamas cannot again be in a position to invade Israel and take more hostages. Now let's take some questions from our audience watching live on social media.
Thank you, Maya. Our first question is from Instagram. The Israeli Defense Ministry announced the arrival of a shipment of 2,000-pound bombs from the United States that the Trump administration released for Israel. What is your reaction to these images and to Israel receiving this new shipment of weapons?
That's a great question. I'll start by saying that we are thrilled. I am thrilled to see the partnership, the ally that the U.S. is being to Israel so that we can defend ourselves. I want to remind you all that the IDF, the Israel Defense Forces, is here to defend us from Iran and its proxy armies. And at the end of the day, we need this ammunition. And furthermore, to see this allyship, to see this partnership and the support of the U.S. is instrumental in, once again, dismantling Hamas, dismantling the Iran proxy armies.
Thank you. Our next question, what was your reaction to seeing the hostages come home this previous Saturday, and what are you expecting to see in the weeks ahead as we continue with phase 1?
Also a great question. I personally, and I believe most of us are here in Israel and around the world, was thrilled and relieved to see the hostages come back home. It is an impossible and unimaginable reality. You know, Sagi Dekelchen came back to a daughter that he didn't even know because she was born while he was held in Hamas captivity and he didn't even know her name. So when we see once he's released, he asked his family, what did you name her? And yet we are so thrilled to see them back home. And like I previously mentioned, we need them all to come back home now. With that being said, we are held at Hamas's psychological terror. They can decide to release hostages. They can decide that they don't want to release it. We get the list mainly just the day of, and we're not even sure. Like this last Saturday, we were not sure if the hostages will or will not be released. And this is, as you mentioned, just the phase 1 of this deal. We need to have phase 2, and we need all hostages back home.
This will be our last question today. A man was arrested in New York after threatening to kill Jews at a synagogue. What is your message to Jews in New York and around the world who are dealing with the growing threat of anti-Semitism?
It's incredibly frightening. I was actually just in New York recently. I think that what Jews around the world are going through right now is extremely difficult, and we need to stay aligned. We need to stand together. This is not just a matter, as I've mentioned before, and this is my belief, this is not just a matter if you're a Jew or an Israeli. I think this is a matter of morality and not encouraging hatred and standing, once again, on the right side of history. But we need to stand up against it. We need to stand up and step up against the misinformation, against the rising anti-Semitism, to create, as much as it sounds idealist, to create a better reality, because right now it's simply not good enough. And that is the reason why we're here and why I'm here. So thank you all. That's all that we have time for today. Thank you for tuning in. We'll be back tomorrow at 3 p.m. Israel time, 8 a.m. East Coast time. Thank you for watching.